Well, I think the slim down was said in a day when there were a few more people around to make that seem like a justifiable...
Right.
A medal disappears. Camilla crashes the party. Then Princess Anne discovers the security footage and everything changes. What those cameras captured will leave you speechless. The royal family tried to keep this quiet, but the truth always comes out. You won't believe what Camilla did when she thought no one was watching. This isn't just palace drama, this is betrayal caught on camera.
I think my mother did exactly the right thing. I think it's absolutely extraordinary.
And I can't remember anybody except the Queen being there.
The confrontation everyone's talking about. That was just the start. What Anne found in that footage could bring down everything Camilla has built. Picture Hillsborough Castle on a crisp afternoon. The lawns are perfectly trimmed, the hedges shaped with precision, and the ancient stone walls stand as they have for centuries. It's the kind of place where every detail matters, where tradition weighs heavy in the air. On this particular day, the castle grounds are alive with activity. A garden party is underway, complete with a string quartet, champagne service, and guests dressed in their finest attire. It's supposed to be a celebration, an opportunity for the royal family to connect with distinguished visitors and honor those who have served the nation. Princess Anne is among the attendees, though those paying close attention might notice she seems less than enthusiastic. The past few weeks have been challenging for her. Not long ago, she had to issue a public apology after missing a scheduled appearance in Scotland. The media coverage that followed was relentless, with journalists and commentators questioning her dedication to royal duties. Some articles suggested she was becoming unreliable, while others speculated about tensions within the family. For someone who has built a reputation on consistency and commitment, this scrutiny has been particularly difficult to navigate. This garden party represents more than just another item on the royal calendar. It's a chance for Anne to demonstrate that the recent criticism was unwarranted, to show that she remains a dependable member of the royal family. The event includes a ceremony to present an honorary medal to a decorated war veteran, a moment that should highlight the royal family's respect for military service and national heritage. Everything needs to go smoothly. Then something goes wrong. The medal, which was supposed to be safely stored and ready for presentation, cannot be found. Staff members search the preparation area, checking tables and storage boxes, but the medal has vanished. What should have been a straightforward ceremony becomes a frantic scramble to locate a missing item of significant symbolic value. For Anne, who is already under intense media scrutiny, this is not just an inconvenience. It's a potential disaster that could further damage her reputation and provide more ammunition for critics who have been questioning her competence. As Anne tries to understand what happened and how to address the situation, she notices something unexpected. Camilla is walking through an area that was supposed to be restricted to event organizers and essential staff. This immediately raises questions. Camilla was not listed among the official guests for this particular gathering, and she certainly had no apparent reason to be in the restricted sections of the venue. Anne was responsible for organizing the event, which makes Camilla's presence even more puzzling and potentially problematic. The atmosphere shifts noticeably. What was already a tense situation due to the missing medal now becomes something more complicated. Anne, known for her direct manner and no-nonsense approach, appears controlled but clearly displeased. Camilla, by contrast, seems completely at ease, carrying herself with an air of confidence that some might interpret as nonchalance or even smugness. The contrast between them is striking. Anne represents duty, structure, and adherence to protocol, while Camilla's unexpected presence suggests a willingness to bend or ignore conventional boundaries. People nearby begin to sense that something unusual is happening. Conversations become quieter as guests try to determine what's going on without being too obvious about their curiosity. The string quartet continues to play, but the music now seems to underscore rather than mask the tension. Staff members exchange glances, uncertain whether they should intervene or simply stay out of the way. The carefully orchestrated atmosphere of the garden party begins to fray at the edges. What becomes clear is that this situation extends beyond a missing medal or an uninvited guest in a restricted area. There's history here, layers of complexity that aren't immediately visible to casual observers. Anne and Camilla represent different approaches to royal life and different positions within the family hierarchy. Anne has always been viewed as the hard-working royal, the one who shows up consistently and performs her duties without seeking the spotlight. She's known for her charitable work, her patronage of numerous organizations, and her reputation for being straightforward and practical. Camilla's path to her current position has been considerably more complicated. Her relationship with Charles, which began long before he married Diana and resumed years later, has been the subject of intense public interest and controversy. For many people, particularly those who admired Diana, Camilla's presence in the royal family remains a sensitive topic. The contrast between public perception of Diana, who was widely beloved, and public perception of Camilla, who has faced persistent criticism, creates an ongoing challenge for the monarchy. Anne has had to navigate her own relationship with Diana's legacy. Despite being Charles's sister rather than his wife, Anne has sometimes been compared to Diana or positioned in relation to Diana's memory. These comparisons are rarely flattering, as Diana set an impossible standard for public affection and media appeal. Anne's more reserved, duty-focused approach has earned respect from many quarters, but it hasn't generated the same emotional response that Diana inspired. So when Camilla appears uninvited at an event where Anne is already vulnerable due to recent criticism, it's difficult not to see it as significant. Whether intentional or not, Camilla's presence at this particular moment serves as a reminder of the complex power dynamics within the royal family. It raises questions about who has access to what spaces, who makes decisions about protocol, and who ultimately holds influence. These questions matter in an institution where hierarchy and tradition are fundamental to how things operate. The missing medal adds another dimension to the situation. If it was simply misplaced through carelessness or administrative error, that would be embarrassing enough for Anne, given her current circumstances. But what if the disappearance was deliberate? What if someone wanted to create exactly this kind of disruption at an event Anne was responsible for organizing? The timing seems almost too convenient, occurring at a moment when Anne can least afford additional controversy or suggestions of incompetence. Anne recognizes that how she handles the next few hours could have lasting consequences. She needs to locate the medal, ensure the ceremony proceeds appropriately, and address Camilla's unexpected presence without creating a scene that would generate negative headlines. At the same time, she cannot simply ignore what appears to be a breach of protocol or possibly something more concerning. The challenge is finding a way to address the situation effectively while maintaining the composure and dignity expected of a senior royal family member. The afternoon sun continues its arc across the sky, casting longer shadows across the manicured lawns. The garden party continues, though the easy atmosphere from earlier has been replaced by something more cautious and watchful. Guests are now paying attention not just to their conversations and social obligations, but to the subtle drama unfolding around them. Staff members remain alert, ready to respond if the situation escalates or if they receive instructions about how to proceed. What started as a straightforward royal event has transformed into something far more complex, a situation where a missing medal might be the least important element at play. The afternoon light begins to take on that golden quality that comes as the sun moves lower in the sky. Shadows stretch across the lawn, making the carefully maintained garden seem slightly less pristine, slightly more dramatic. Anne moves purposefully toward a section of the garden where rose bushes have been cultivated with the same attention to detail that characterizes everything at Hillsborough Castle. It's here, near these roses, that she finds Camilla standing with a glass of wine, looking as though she has every right to be exactly where she is. Anne's voice cuts through the pleasant background noise of the garden party. She asks directly how Camilla managed to gain entry to this area. There's no warmth in the question, no pretense of casual curiosity. It's a demand for an explanation delivered with the kind of controlled intensity that suggests Anne is working hard to maintain her composure. The question hangs in the air, unavoidable and sharp. Camilla's response is measured and deliberate. She takes a sip of her wine before speaking, a gesture that conveys she's in no hurry and feels no particular need to justify herself. Her reply acknowledges Anne's position as Charles's sister, while simultaneously suggesting that Anne might be overreacting. She frames the situation as a simple family gathering, implying that any member of the family should naturally be welcome at such an event. The words sound reasonable on the surface, but there's an edge to them, a subtle challenge embedded in what appears to be a straightforward explanation. Anne immediately pushes back, making it clear that not everyone has automatic access to royal events, and that Camilla knows perfectly well this is Anne's event to organise and control. The emphasis on ownership is deliberate. Anne is asserting her authority, reminding Camilla that there are boundaries and protocols that should be respected. The exchange is polite enough that anyone overhearing fragments might not immediately recognize how pointed it actually is, but the two women understand exactly what's being communicated. Camilla's next comment shifts the conversation to a different level. She suggests that some people understand how to navigate spaces and opportunities without requiring formal invitations. The implication is that Anne, despite her official position and responsibilities, somehow lacks this particular skill or understanding. It's a calculated insult, one that questions not just Anne's social intelligence, but her overall effectiveness as a member of the royal family. The comment is designed to sting, and based on Anne's reaction, it succeeds. Anne moves closer, her voice becoming tighter and more controlled. She asks directly what Camilla is doing at the event, whether she's simply trying to create problems for the sake of entertainment. It's an accusation wrapped in a question, an attempt to force Camilla to either admit to having disruptive intentions or to provide a more satisfactory explanation for her presence. The physical proximity between them increases the intensity of the moment. These are two women who are no longer bothering with the usual social pleasantries, who have moved into territory where the pretense of cordial relations has been temporarily abandoned. Camilla's demeanor changes noticeably. The casual, almost amused tone disappears, replaced by something colder and more direct. She states that her purpose is to remind Anne about where power actually resides within the family. She suggests that Anne's recent attempts at public rehabilitation, including whatever apologies or explanations she's offered, won't fundamentally change public perception. Then she brings up Diana, specifically suggesting that Anne will always exist in Diana's shadow, unable to escape comparisons to someone who captured public affection in a way that Anne never has and never will. The mention of Diana clearly affects Anne. For a brief moment, her carefully maintained composure wavers. Diana remains a complicated presence in discussions about the royal family, even years after her death. Her memory continues to influence how people view the monarchy and how they assess various family members. For Anne, who has spent her entire life as a working royal without seeking or receiving the kind of adoration Diana inspired, the comparison is particularly difficult. But Anne recovers quickly, her voice now carrying clear anger, as she tells Camilla not to invoke Diana's name as part of whatever game Camilla is playing. Anne defends her own approach to royal duties, emphasizing that public respect for her work comes from her dedication and consistency, not from trying to replicate or compete with anyone else. She's asserting that her value and contributions stand on their own merits, that she doesn't need to chase ghosts or compete with memories. It's a defense of her entire approach to royal life, a rejection of the idea that she's somehow inadequate because she operates differently than Diana did. Camilla responds with skepticism, questioning the authenticity of Anne's dedication. She suggests that Anne has hidden behind duty as a convenient mask, that without her connection to Charles and the royal title, she would be largely invisible and irrelevant. She goes further, claiming that people don't actually see Anne as an individual with her own identity, but rather as a convenient stand-in for Diana, someone who reminds them of what they lost. According to Camilla, Anne not only accepts this role, but actually embraces it, finding comfort in being a reflection of someone else rather than establishing her own distinct presence. The criticism is comprehensive and brutal. It attacks Anne's sense of purpose, her understanding of her own role, and her relationship with public perception. Anne's physical response is visible. Her hands form fists, a clear indication of how much effort she's exerting to maintain control. Around them, the garden party continues, but people are starting to notice that something significant is happening. Servants who were moving through the crowd with trays and refreshments have slowed their pace, stealing glances toward the confrontation. Guests who are engaged in their own conversations have become distracted, trying to observe without being too obvious about their interest. Anne counters by attacking Camilla's motives and methods. She accuses Camilla of using the royal name purely for personal benefit, without genuine concern for the responsibilities that come with royal status. She lists what she sees as Camilla's deficiencies. No real depth, commitment to duty, no concern for maintaining public trust, no respect for the dignity and traditions of the monarchy. According to Anne, Camilla's only consistent priority is keeping herself prominent and relevant, regardless of what that requires or what damage it might cause. Camilla fires back with equal force. She challenges Anne's self-perception, questioning whether Anne truly believes she's as virtuous as she claims. She argues that Anne has spent her entire life comparing herself to others and coming up short, that people praise Anne as kind and grounded primarily because they're trying to reconstruct Diana through someone who's actually available. And according to Camilla, Anne derives satisfaction from this, enjoying the reflected attention even as she pretends to be focused solely on duty and service. Anne's breathing has become audibly faster. The fury she's feeling is no longer something she can completely disguise. She calls Camilla despicable, arguing that the public doesn't want replacements or substitutes, but rather authenticity and honesty. She accuses Camilla of hiding behind a carefully constructed image of queenly dignity to obscure the reality that she's never been genuinely accepted by significant portions of the British public. It's a direct attack on Camilla's legitimacy and her right to occupy the position she currently holds. Camilla responds by emphasizing her current status and power. She points out that regardless of public opinion or acceptance, she's the one standing beside Charles, the one wearing a crown, the one with actual authority and influence. She dismisses Anne as essentially a supporting character, someone who keeps busy with charitable activities but who lacks real power or importance within the family structure. The words are designed to minimize Anne's significance, to reduce her role to something peripheral and ultimately inconsequential. Anne moves even closer to Camilla until they're standing with barely any space between them. The servants have given up any pretense of not paying attention. They're standing still now, clearly focused on what's happening, even as they try to look like they're simply attending to their duties. Guests throughout the garden have noticed the confrontation, and whispers are spreading rapidly. Some people have pulled out phones, and there are flashes of light suggesting photographs are being taken. Whatever happens next will not remain private. Anne speaks in a voice that's quiet but sharp enough to cut. She tells Camilla that the throne isn't meant for opportunists, that Camilla's desperate attempts to maintain her position only make her true character more apparent. She suggests that no amount of image management or strategic silence can permanently bury the truth, that eventually reality will emerge regardless of how carefully Camilla tries to control narratives and perceptions. Camilla's response indicates she's heard similar threats before without consequence. She suggests that Anne is naive if she believes she has the power to bring Camilla down, and she offers a warning of her own. In this family, according to Camilla, the quiet ones, the ones who don't actively protect themselves and assert their positions, tend to be the ones who end up destroyed. It's a threat dressed up as advice, a suggestion that Anne's approach to royal life leaves her vulnerable to those willing to play more aggressively. Anne's reply is simple and firm. She states that she'll make certain she's not among the vulnerable ones who get devoured. It's a declaration of intent, an indication that she's prepared to fight to protect her position and reputation. The tension has become almost unbearable. Even guests who were initially uncertain what was happening have now recognized that they're witnessing something extraordinary. Someone nearby murmurs in disbelief, struggling to process that two members of the royal family are having such an open confrontation. Camilla begins to turn away, apparently deciding the conversation has run its course. But Anne's voice stops her. Anne warns that if Camilla continues crossing boundaries, she'll have security footage reviewed. She'll investigate exactly how Camilla gained access to the restricted area, and if anything irregular is discovered, Camilla will have to answer for it. It's no longer just about the immediate confrontation. Anne is threatening to expose whatever methods Camilla used to attend the event uninvited. Camilla stops moving. She turns back slowly, and though she's clearly angry, she forces her face into something resembling a smile. Her response is to encourage Anne to proceed with her investigation, but she adds a caution. Truth, she suggests, doesn't always favor those who make the most noise or the strongest accusations. It's a reminder that investigations can reveal unexpected information, that looking too closely at situations can sometimes create problems for the person doing the investigating. Anne's response is curt and final. The exchange is over. The damage has been done and both women know it. The careful boundaries that usually govern royal interactions have been thoroughly breached. Suspicion has been planted and will continue to grow regardless of what either woman does next. Anne turns and walks away with clear purpose. Behind her, Camilla remains standing near the roses, still holding her wine glass. Her grip has tightened noticeably, and as she stands there, some of the red wine spills over the rim, running down the glass like blood. The visual is striking and seems almost symbolic of what has just transpired. The garden party has fundamentally changed character. What was meant to be a pleasant social gathering celebrating tradition and honouring service has become something else entirely. A battlefield where conflicts usually kept private have erupted into the open. The clash between Anne and Camilla is finished for now, but it's clear to everyone. Present that this is not the end, but rather the beginning of something larger and potentially more destructive. As evening settles over Hillsborough Castle, the atmosphere inside shifts dramatically from what it had been during the garden party. The formal event has concluded, guests have begun departing, but the building itself seems to pulse with a different kind of energy. Conversations happen in corners, in hallways, wherever small groups can gather without being too conspicuous. The confrontation between Anne and Camilla has become the primary topic of discussion, spreading through the castle with remarkable speed. People describe what they saw, what they heard, what they think it all means. The details get embellished with each retelling, but the core facts remain consistent. There was a clash, it was public, and it was unmistakably hostile. Camilla has removed herself from the main areas where people are still lingering. She's found a side lounge, a quieter space away from the bulk of the activity. She sits in a velvet chair that looks like it belongs in a much older era, continuing to drink wine and presenting an image of complete unconcern. When people pass by or enter the lounge, she offers them polite smiles and acknowledges their presence with small gestures. To a casual observer, she might appear perfectly relaxed, unbothered by whatever occurred earlier. But there are people watching her more carefully, people who aren't convinced by the performance. They see someone working perhaps a bit too hard to appear serene, and they wonder what's actually happening beneath that carefully maintained exterior. About an hour after the situation with the missing medal first became apparent, a young man approached Anne. His name is Matthew, and he works as a servant at the castle. He's clearly nervous about what he's come to say, approaching with visible hesitation and bowing low in a gesture of respect and deference. When he speaks, his voice trembles slightly. He tells Anne there's something she needs to know, information he feels obligated to share despite his obvious discomfort about inserting himself into royal affairs. Anne is surrounded by several advisors at this point, people who have been helping her manage the various crises of the day. She raises an eyebrow at Matthew's approach and his tentative opening, a small gesture that indicates she's listening and expects him to continue. Her expression suggests she's anticipating more bad news, another complication to add to what has already been an extraordinarily difficult day. Matthew gathers himself and begins to explain. Earlier in the day, before the ceremony was scheduled to take place, he was working on setting up the reception table where refreshments would be served. During this work, he saw Lady Camilla entering the venue. What struck him as unusual was that she didn't come through the main gate where guests were expected to arrive. Instead, she used the west side door, an entrance typically reserved for staff members and service personnel. Even more peculiar was what she was wearing. She had on a staff coat, the kind worn by people working the event rather than attending as guests. The room becomes noticeably quieter as Matthew speaks. One of Anne's advisors interrupts to question whether Matthew might be mistaken about what he saw. It's a reasonable question given the implications of what he's describing, and it gives Matthew an opportunity to reconsider or walk back his statement if he's uncertain. But Matthew doesn't hesitate. He explains that he's worked at the castle for 5 years, that he knows every member of the regular staff, and that he's completely familiar with the uniforms and coats worn by different teams. The coat Camilla was wearing belongs specifically to the beverage service team. On her, it looked entirely out of place, like a costume rather than proper work attire. Matthew continues with more details. After seeing Camilla come through this west side entrance in the staff coat, he then observed her entering the preparation room. This is significant because the preparation room is where the medal boxes were being stored before the ceremony. It's not a space that guests would have any legitimate reason to access. Matthew explains that he had to step away briefly to attend to other setup tasks, and when he returned to that area, Camilla was no longer there. The timing of her presence in the preparation room and the subsequent discovery that the medal was missing creates an obvious and troubling connection. Anne listens to all of this while tapping a finger against the armrest of her chair, a small physical gesture that suggests she's thinking carefully about what she's hearing. Matthew's account aligns too perfectly with what Anne had already suspected based on her own observations and instincts. The pieces fit together in a way that's difficult to dismiss as coincidence, but rather than reacting with visible anger or immediately taking dramatic action, Anne remains controlled. She instructs Matthew to tell absolutely no one about what he's shared with her. He's to pretend he saw nothing, to carry on with his normal duties as though this conversation never happened. She'll handle the matter personally. Matthew bows deeply again, clearly relieved to have fulfilled what he saw as his duty to report what he witnessed, while also being released from any further responsibility for the situation. He leaves quickly, disappearing back into the areas of the castle where staff members work largely unseen by the royal family and their guests. Once Matthew has departed and only Anne's most trusted guards remain in the room, Anne raises her hand in a gesture that summons one specific individual. A tall man with silver hair steps forward. This is Sir Andrew, Anne's chief of security, someone who has worked with her for years and has earned her complete confidence. Anne's instructions to him are clear and specific. She wants all security footage from the past 24 hours retrieved and reviewed. The focus should be particularly on the west entrance, the route Matthew described Camilla using. This needs to be done quietly, without drawing attention or creating awareness among other staff members or anyone else in the castle. Andrew acknowledges the instructions with a simple nod, indicating he understands both the task and the need for discretion. He knows Anne well enough to recognize that she's approaching this methodically, building a case rather than reacting emotionally. The evidence gathering has begun, and whatever comes next will depend entirely on what that evidence reveals. The castle settles into an uneasy quiet as night deepens, but beneath that surface calm, wheels are turning that will change everything. That same night, Andrew and members of his security team gather in the basement control room where the castle's security monitoring equipment is housed. The room is small and functional, filled with screens and recording devices, bathed in the bluish light that comes from multiple monitors. The team settles in for what they know will be a tedious process of reviewing hours of footage, searching for specific moments and details that might be easy to miss if they're not paying close attention. The sound of keyboard clicks mixes with occasional comments and observations as they work through the recordings. This is painstaking work, requiring focus and patience, but everyone in the room understands the significance of what they're looking for. One of the technicians makes the first significant discovery. He calls attention to footage from 4:20 in the afternoon, recorded by the camera covering the west entrance. Initially, the screen shows an empty corridor, just another stretch of the castle's interior with no activity. Then a figure appears in the frame. The person is wearing a black coat and has a hat pulled down low, an outfit that seems designed to avoid easy identification. But as the figure moves and turns slightly, the face becomes visible enough for recognition. It's Camilla. There's no question about it. She glances around briefly, checking her surroundings in a way that suggests awareness. She's somewhere she perhaps shouldn't be, and then she slips through the doorway. Andrew's voice takes on a harder edge as he instructs the technician to zoom in on the image. Even with the grainy quality typical of security footage, the enhanced view shows Camilla presenting a small card to the guard stationed at that entrance. The guard's reaction is notable. He doesn't question her presence or ask for additional identification. Instead, he nods in a way that suggests familiarity or prior arrangement, and he waves her through without any apparent hesitation. There's no challenge, no verification beyond whatever that card represents. It's a smooth, quick interaction that indicates this wasn't an impulsive decision by Camilla, but rather something planned with at least some level of preparation. The team moves on to footage from the preparation room, the area Matthew had mentioned seeing Camilla enter. The camera there captures Camilla carefully opening the door and scanning the interior before proceeding inside. She's clearly alone and appears confident in her movements. She walks directly to the table where the medals are stored and lifts one of the boxes, turning it over in her hands as though examining it or verifying its contents. Then, instead of replacing the box in its original location where it would be easily accessible for the ceremony, she places it in a drawer underneath the table. It's a subtle repositioning, the kind of thing that wouldn't be immediately obvious, but that would create exactly the kind of confusion and delay that occurred when the medal couldn't be found at the expected time. The control room falls silent as the team absorbs what they've just witnessed. One of the technicians, his voice betraying his shock, comments that what they're seeing is highly irregular, a significant understatement given the implications. This isn't a case of someone accidentally wandering into a restricted area or making an innocent mistake. The footage shows deliberate actions, someone who knew exactly where to go and what to do, someone who took specific steps to create a problem while maintaining plausible deniability about her involvement. Andrew's jaw tightens visibly, a physical manifestation of his anger and concern about what they've discovered. He instructs the team to export everything, both the video files and still images captured from the most relevant moments. He wants complete documentation that can be presented to Anne and potentially used for whatever action she decides to take. This isn't something that can be dismissed or explained away through creative interpretation. It's documented evidence of Camilla deliberately interfering with an official royal event. Later that night, Anne sits alone in her study, a private space where she can think without the constant presence of advisors and staff members. A desk lamp provides focused light, illuminating the folder Andrew has brought her and leaving the rest of the room in relative shadow. Andrew presents the materials methodically, first showing the still images and then playing the video footage on a laptop. Anne watches everything without interruption, her expression remaining neutral and controlled even as she processes what she's seeing. The footage confirms everything. Camilla sneaking in through the staff entrance, that knowing smile visible even in the grainy security video, the careful handling of the medal box, and its deliberate relocation. It's all there, documented in a way that removes any possibility of genuine misunderstanding or innocent explanation. When the video ends, Anne exhales slowly, a long breath that suggests both vindication and recognition of how complicated things are about to become. Anne acknowledges that her instincts were correct, that this wasn't just suspicion or personal animosity coloring her perception of events. Camilla actually did what Anne suspected, deliberately creating a problem at Anne's event for reasons that remain somewhat unclear, but that obviously relate to the ongoing power dynamics and tensions within the royal family. Andrew asks the logical next question. Does Anne want to make this public immediately? The evidence is strong enough that they could present it to media outlets or release it through official channels, forcing a public reckoning with Camilla's actions. But Anne shakes her head, rejecting the idea of immediate disclosure. She explains her reasoning carefully. If she releases the footage now, Camilla will almost certainly claim it's been manipulated or taken out of context. She'll find ways to create doubt about its authenticity or its interpretation. Anne needs more than just the video evidence. She needs witnesses who can provide corroborating testimony, people who saw things that align with what the footage shows. She needs a case so thoroughly documented and supported that denial becomes impossible, so airtight that even Camilla's most dedicated defenders won't be able to dismiss it. Anne walks to the window of her study, looking out at the castle grounds now illuminated by moonlight. The gardens that were filled with guests and tension earlier in the day are now empty and peaceful, but that calm is deceptive. Anne knows there's no way to avoid a major confrontation at this point. The whispers about Matthew's sighting are already spreading through the castle staff, moving from one person to another like ripples across water. Some of the guests at the party notice Camilla's brief disappearance before the ceremony, and they're starting to ask questions about whether it might be significant. Conversations are happening in drawing rooms and over phone calls, people sharing observations and speculation. Suspicion is growing organically, creating an environment where the truth will become increasingly difficult to suppress or ignore. Anne now possesses multiple forms of evidence, each piece reinforcing the others. She has Matthew's direct testimony about what he observed, a first-hand account from someone with no apparent reason to fabricate such a story. She has the security footage showing Camilla's unauthorized entry and her actions in the preparation room, visual documentation that removes ambiguity about what occurred. She has the benefit of multiple witnesses who observed the confrontation between herself and Camilla at the garden party, people who saw the hostility and heard at least portions of what was said. All of these elements together create a foundation for action that goes beyond mere accusation or suspicion. Camilla, meanwhile, appears to believe she acted without detection. She conducted her interference carefully, using a disguise of sorts with the staff, coat and taking advantage of access that shouldn't have been available to her. She moved through restricted areas with apparent confidence, suggesting she thought her actions would go unnoticed or at least unproven. She doesn't yet realize that her careful planning had a critical flaw. She accounted for avoiding direct observation by guests and most staff members, but she failed to consider the comprehensive security camera coverage that modern facilities maintain. The net is closing around her, evidence accumulating that will make her actions undeniable, but she remains unaware of how much danger she's actually in. Anne's reflection in the window shows a woman whose expression has hardened with resolve. She's preparing herself mentally for what's coming next, for the confrontation that will occur once she decides the time is right and the evidence is complete. This isn't about personal revenge or winning some petty dispute. It's about protecting the integrity of royal events, about maintaining standards of behavior and accountability, about ensuring that there are consequences when someone deliberately sabotages official functions. Anne recognizes that how she handles this situation will have implications beyond just her relationship with Camilla. It will send a message about what behavior is acceptable within the royal family and what crosses the line into territory that cannot be tolerated. But before any of that can happen, absolute secrecy remains essential. If Camilla learns about the investigation before Anne is ready to act, she'll have time to prepare defenses, to craft explanations, to potentially undermine the case being built against her. She might claim the footage is misleading, that she was looking for something innocent, that her presence in those areas had legitimate purposes that were simply misunderstood. She could reach out to allies within the family or the broader aristocratic circle, building support and creating narratives that muddy the waters. Anne needs to maintain the element of surprise, to present the evidence when Camilla has no opportunity to prepare or deflect. Andrew stands quietly nearby, waiting to see if Anne has additional instructions. He's been in her service long enough to read her moods and understand when she's working through complex decisions. He knows she'll act decisively once she's satisfied that all the pieces are in place. But he also knows she won't be rushed into premature action that might compromise the strength of her position. In the darker corners of the castle, the security cameras continue their constant surveillance, red lights blinking steadily in the dimness. They're silent witnesses to everything that happens within the castle walls, recording without judgment or emotion, simply documenting reality as it unfolds moment by moment. And that documented reality is now telling a story that Camilla would very much prefer remained hidden. A story of calculated interference and deliberate disruption. The cameras captured what human eyes might have missed or misinterpreted, providing an objective record that will be difficult to dispute or explain away. Anne turns away from the window, her decision made for now. She'll continue gathering evidence, continue building her case, continue preparing for the moment when she can present everything in a way that leaves no room for doubt or deflection. The confrontation is coming, inevitable and necessary, but it will happen on her terms and at her timing. Until then, she'll maintain her composure, continue her duties, and give no indication that she's sitting on evidence that could shake the foundations of royal family dynamics. The night deepens around Hillsborough Castle, and somewhere in its ancient stones and modern security systems, the truth waits patiently to be revealed.